This is killer. Oh, no, 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 no. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the special Sunday night Retro Blasting live stream. I'm going to get everybody into their proper driving and piloting positions here for this stream. Okay, everybody, hope you're doing well tonight. We have a fun discussion that I think this is going to be enlightening. I was talking with Bobby and Tony. I talk with Bobby and Tony pretty regularly on separate chats and sometimes in a group chat. And we were just talking about, the distribution and action figures. We were probably talking about Action Force at the time from Valaverse because, Bobby's making action figures right now from overseas in the traditional way, and they're on their way over and all that stuff. And I thought, you know what? Bobby kind of wants to, and I'm speaking for you like you're not here, Bobby, but I'm looking right at you. So Bobby kind of said he wanted to talk about, some of this toy industry stuff. And I was like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Like, get somebody who's actually, he's a toy maker. He's a toy sculptor. He actually is still currently making figures in this market with the challenges, both pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, or mid-pandemic, whatever you want to call it. And then also get another lifelong toy collector, which is Tony, who has been collecting in a completely different market. And I thought between the three of us, we can kind of talk this whole thing through and leaning on, Bobby, your experience, kind of figure out how we got here, where we are, what the last 10 years have really looked like. Timothy Ward says, someone currently making toys. What a notion. Jeff, thank you for the super chat. He says, slightly off topic, when do we see Michael in Action Force as the archivist tech guy? Official word on that. I don't want to be in Action Force. I would rather spend my chips getting more deserving people in Action Force. So, I won't tell you the different people that I've recommended to Bobby that I thought would be cool for Action Force. I'm not above being a fanboy and recommending people for Action Force. I did it, but I don't want to be in Action Force. It is a very special toy line with real veterans and real military people. I'm cool not being in part. That would just all right.
So I wasn't laughing at you, Michael. I just read Laser Pants super chat.
Laser Pants, thank you for the super chat. He says, hello from Alex's basement. I just breathed on his hot toys. Oh, man.
That might be the next name of an adult film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let the memeing begin.
Hello from Alex's basement. Okay, so
I was thinking breathe on my hot toys, but
I'm gonna be a bright shining star, big star. Okay, so I was taking the Wayback Machine to kind of orient myself for this conversation. Both of you keep me honest. I was working with a guy for a long time at my newspaper job. He was the photographer. I was the Clark Kent reporter guy. And he was a big Star Wars collector. Like, he collected all of it, all the modern stuff. It didn't matter what it was. He had a whole 3 3/4 inch room, and he bought everything. Like, he was more interested in the modern stuff than he was in completing his vintage collection. Like, he was all in on the new stuff, which is great, and so he was always going on toy hunts between his assignments. So he would stop on the 3 different Walmarts, Kmarts, and a Toys R Us on the way back from wherever he went back to the newspaper. So this was around 2008 by this time. So I'd known him about 3 years at that point. He'd gotten some stuff for me over the course of that because I was more picky with the modern, but he would find it and then get me a few, and then I'd pay him back, stuff like that. We're in 2008, and they're in the midst of the Indiana Jones revival at Hasbro. Crystal Skull has come out. They're doing the action figure run for Crystal Skull. And it's getting into the Last Crusade and Temple of Doom waves. And he's not collecting them himself, but he's looking for them for me. And I'm picking them up as he gets them and paying him back. We get to the Temple of Doom wave, and I can't find him anywhere. And he knew all the haunts in Atlanta. Like, he had a system. He knew where to go. He knew who to talk to. And finally, one day, he texted me and he said, "Hey, can you meet me at, I don't remember where." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I drove out there, and he had found them, and he had found them at a drugstore. It was like a Kroger or a Rite Aid or something. Like, and they all had, I still got the card backs. They have the drugstore, Kroger, pharmacy price tags on them. And apparently that's where all of these were ending up. 2 years later, I believe it was 2, whenever the vintage collection Bespin Han Solo finally came out, that was one that was highly anticipated, finally came out on the vintage card back. And he called me at work. I had moved on to work at another, I worked at UPS corporate at that point. He called me and we had like an hour-long phone conversation where he was telling me how impossible it had now become in the last 24 months since that Temple of Doom thing happened to get these figures. And he said the Bespin Han wave is just not showing up. And he finally had to buy a whole case of it off of Hasbro Toy Shop or something just to get that run of figures. And that was the beginning of this pattern that I saw. So, Bobby, based on your experience, am I right in that timeline? Do you happen to know like when distribution, if it started to change or if things started to shift? Because this was a pre-fall of Toys R Us era. Like, yeah. This was still, all the major retailers were still around. So do you happen to know if there were any shifts at that time?
Not that I recall, no. I mean, just trying to think. Yeah, there was nothing that we heard of, or that I remember coming to light as far as affecting distribution at that time.
Now, would we? I guess my question then is: all of us are. We've talked about this before in the background that the toy aisles have looked pretty barren lately, even before COVID. Like, even before COVID, you'd go in and it'd be like one Black Series hanging off the peg, and what can we attribute to that? How does this work, Bobby? And did I call you Tony a second ago? And I apologize if I did. I hope I didn't. I don't think
if you did.
I don't think so.
Okay, we're just going to ride right past that. Bobby, walk us through in your both direct experience now and also then how this retail distribution works in the modern age.
All right, yeah, I could do that. I can give you my experiences and then pass them off as modern day facts now if you want. But
no. You couch those however you like, sir. However you like.
So as far as distribution goes, it all gets manufactured over in China, but now a lot of the toy companies are expanding where they're doing manufacturing. So Hasbro started looking at India, Mexico, Vietnam was the big one that kind of came to light. They were bringing in, some really cheap labor, which is unfortunate. And that's the thing. That's the sad part, is that, because you're fighting to make the cheapest product so that you can capitalize on profiting.
Right.
They're always looking for what is the cheaper labor. And, China is still very cheap, but it started getting to the point where they're like, no, so much stuff is being manufactured over here. We need to, raise our prices and get a little bit more money. And then that's when, companies started venturing out. But, there's the Pacific Ocean between these continents. So everything is, the majority of everything is going to come over to the West Coast as far as ports. And, the port of, Long Beach in LA, and then there's another one a little further south. I think there's 6 major ports in California. So deliveries are going to come there, and then they're just going to get processed. And now I know that back in the 80s, Hasbro had a distribution plant, I believe, in Maine. Because some of the Steel Brigades, when you did the original mail order for the Steel Brigades, they they took the figures from China, like they got the China figures, and then they put the file cards in, so it was processed there and then packaged and then sent out from like Maryland or Maine. Sorry, I believe now Hasbro has a facility in Pennsylvania, and I think they have more throughout. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a large distribution coming to the West Coast, but then it's going to filter out, obviously. Now, what's going to happen is you and I, we're on the East Coast. You're south, I'm north. We're always going to find toys last because just geography. It's going to come to the West Coast. It doesn't really need to go to like a big hub, like a Hasbro hub. And then if it does, it's going to splinter out really quick to like Target, Walmart, and all the other stores. So like laserpants.com always has stock really quick. I order from laserpants.com all the time because stuff's always available because he's in Seattle and that's where everything comes in. So, you know, it's going to start to shift throughout the rest of the country. And then, you know, it's going to go to those, you know, maybe some stuff goes over to that hub in that Hasbro has in Pennsylvania. And then it filters out through there. I know that living in Rhode Island, it's like very rarely do I see stuff. Like I can't even say I ever see stuff before someone else does. Right. But it's also like if I even get stuff, like it's rare. Like I remember when the Evil 2-pack, the Masters of the Universe Target exclusive, that pack, I forget what it's actually called, but that showed up before they became peg warmers. It showed up like when they were still hot. Right. And like I couldn't believe it. And I grabbed one off the shelf and a guy like offered me $20 to like buy it from me. And I was like, here you go, dude. I'm not going to pay you. I'm not going to have you pay me to take this product that I haven't even bought yet. So here you go. Right. But it was like that, you know, that fierceness because nothing comes out that way. So as far as distribution goes, that's that. Now, speaking to my experiences like now with the Action Force stuff. So the way it's going to happen with shipping, we have basically there were two options given to us. There's the current way, which everything comes into LA, and you see now there's a backup of over 100 ships just waiting. So I didn't, you know, already that journey, that's like a 50, 60 day like delivery point, doing it that current way. And then that's not counting who knows how long the ships are going to sit in the port for. So I was like, we can't do that. You know, it's been long enough. People have been waiting. Like I need to get this stuff here, whatever it takes, you know, get the stuff here as quickly as possible. We found an alternative shipping method that kind of came around. You know, a shipping carrier set this up and it's bypassing that. Like it's still coming in through California, but instead of going to the ports, it's going to its own hub, which is away from those. So then it comes and then that will then come and go directly to me in Rhode Island. So, and then it'll come to me and then I'll distribute it from there. So that's, you know, that's how that's going to work. But also there are ways where you can get product shipped to the Port of Boston. I know it's much more expensive because of the routes that it has to take. You know, because think of geography, but you know, that's kind of one of those things. But like, luckily, hopefully the option that we have now being set up for it, it's like almost double the amount, which sucks because it's like, you know, that eats into, you know, the profit margins, which then I've already rolled into Series 2 and now I'm rolling into Series 3, which we're starting now. So that kind of hurts, but it's like at this point, it was much more important to get the product here as quickly as possible rather than to save money. So, you know, sorry. That's kind of it for is like my experiences as far as distribution goes. Right.
The thing that I think is weirding me out, and this is where I'm bringing Tony officially into this discussion, and then it becomes a free for all. I think at that point, it's the Soviet grocery store look of the aisles over the last several years. Even, you know, now they're trying to blame all of this on COVID, and it's like, yeah, but guys, it looked this way before COVID. Like for several years before COVID, it's been looking this way. Yeah. And so some people, you know, try and say, well, you know, they're these retailers are the problem, and the retailers are, And it's like, well, by now, wouldn't the retailers and the manufacturers, the toy companies have gotten together to try and solve this issue? So back when Rogue One came out, 2016, there was a Black Series Jyn Erso that was exclusive to Kmart. And she was in the goggles and poncho from the planet with all the downpouring rain on it where she sees her father get killed or whatever. And it came in like a diorama box, and she was posed on like a rock in the window box or whatever. I never once saw those here in Atlanta. Nowhere did I ever see them. I didn't see them in Tennessee. I didn't see them in South Carolina. I didn't see them anywhere. But several months later, because people were showing off on social media, hey, I just got, the Jyn Erso from whatever Kmart exclusive. And then I find out that there is a Kmart. A friend of mine posted that there was a Kmart that was going out of business, because now Kmarts were like, in bankruptcy or whatever. They're going out of business. And it had a shelf that was like 70 Jyn Ersos long, 4 high, and 5 deep of just that exclusive at that one store. And he was like out west somewhere. Like he was like, I don't know, pick a place, Kansas, Colorado, something like that. Like it was west of me. And I've been hearing about these kinds of distribution kerfuffles constantly. So Tony has told me several times about things in Australia, product lines that are supposed to be sold in the, many markets, including the United States, action figure lines. We're having very difficult times finding them here. And Tony, who's not even collecting some of them, will go into a shop. And this is where I want you to jump in and just some of the ones you've seen that are in abundance where you are, that I mean, they're like unicorns here. They're like Bigfoot. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, and I was literally down in Perth a couple of days ago. I flew down, I bought a new car. So got down in the morning, picked up the car, and then the first thing I did was drove around to about 5 different, no, way more than 5, about 9 different stores. So I went to a big toy store that at one point used to be a Toys R Us, and then when Toys R Us closed down, it just reopened under a different name, and it's still a big toy store. And then a load of department stores. And you'll remember we were having a chat about this probably a year ago, and I said to you, the Profit Director Destro figures that were hard to get. I found this toy store in Perth that had like a dozen of them on the shelf. I went into that same toy store, and they still have a dozen, or maybe there's 11 now. Maybe they've sold one of them. They haven't kind of put them on clearance or anything like that. But the G.I. Joe Classified, for some reason, we don't have any of these store exclusive stuff, even though we have Target in Australia. They're not carrying any. I didn't even see empty pegs that had the labels there. So there's probably some kind of different arrangement with Target Australia and Target US for the Cobra Island stuff. But all the other G.I. Joe stuff is in abundance on store shelves. Earlier releases, I would say. But yeah, they're in abundance, and I saw them 12 months ago, and I go back to the same stores, and they're still there. They just don't seem to sell. But then when it comes to Black Series, I mean, Star Wars is popular everywhere, so Black Series. We can get that here. I was finding we have a chain of stores in Australia called Zing Pop Culture. So they do a lot of, they do the DC classics, all sorts of different action figures, of course, Funko Pops, that kind of thing.
Right.
But there's a whole chain of them around. Sometimes they're partnered up with an EB game store. Sometimes they're a standalone. So I think I went to 3 of them, but each one I went to had completely different stock, and they were within a 10, 15 minute, 3 different malls within sort of 15 minutes of each other, completely different stock at each store. I couldn't understand, but going back to pre-COVID times when, and I completely agree, COVID did not start this distribution issue. It was like this beforehand.
Right.
I can remember The Force Awakens, and then certainly Rogue One as well. I was working in the Middle East, living in Thailand on my time off. and there was a Toys R Us in the city where I lived. Not a huge Toys R Us; it was inside a mall. But when those two films came out, there was tons and tons of stock on the shelves for Rogue One, Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened; it just died off. Maybe. I mean, certainly with Star Wars, you can, I suppose, blame part of that on The Last Jedi if you want. But it's like nothing seemed to recover after that disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was around, I guess that was a few years, that would have been a few years after. Bobby, I heard you on another channel recently discussing how it was, I believe you said it was Winter Soldier Marvel Legends suddenly kicked Marvel Legends into the stratosphere for retailers, and suddenly they wanted those really badly. Like suddenly Marvel Legends made their radar or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Legends was always big. Now, you know, I heard someone a while back say that, you know, that retailers don't care about collectors. And that makes sense if you know, were kicked out of the toy industry in 2014. But that was before the real hot trend of collecting starting. Now, listen, collecting, you know, it's like, yeah, like, okay, DC, wrestling, yeah, they're parts of the pie. But the majority of the pie is Marvel and Star Wars. Let's not forget that. So, you know, if you were to say that, you know, DC figures and He-Man figures are popular, but you're a small fish in a pond with a ton of 8-pound bass. So, yeah, like that time, like, yes, the retailers were taking Legends, but it was like we were only doing, maybe 3 waves of Legends a year. You know, and you do, you know, a classic wave, maybe a movie wave, you know, and then a mix somewhere in there. And then Toys R Us was getting just the X-Men. They were taking 1, maybe 2 waves a year of X-Men. So I think it was either Guardians or Winter Soldier or around that same time. I don't remember the exact dates. I think Guardians came out in 2014, which would make sense if you thought that retailers don't care about collectors, because that's when maybe your lack of knowledge goes till. But collecting took a huge spike after that. And then it was retailers were like, it's all, we want Legends, 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 Legends. You know why? Because in 2015, they told us, we want more. Give us more. That's when we rebranded 4-inch to Legends because they wanted Legends. We came out with 2 new segments, the 12-inch and the one-to-one role play stuff, which then launched in 2016. So I was working on those lines in 2015. They were really asking for that stuff then. It got so hot that we made new segments. So yes, retailers cared about collectors. If you said retailers don't care about collectors, you're just an idiot. Like you're an absolute idiot. Or you just missed the boat, you know? So now it's like that's all retail cares about. And yes, retail created a new spot by the DVDs that has all collector stuff, but that's also the stuff that's age graded different. It's not necessarily collector stuff. It's technically for age graded stuff. So with my Action Force stuff, just to give you guys some quick knowledge, if you want your toy to be graded 4+, which is what all of Hasbro Mattel stuff is, you have to go through some strict testing that the factory does, and it has to pass drop tests, sharp point tests, all these kind of ridiculous tests that cost a lot of money. So if I want Action Force to go through that, it would have to cost a lot of money. But this, I know my consumer. My consumer isn't kids. My consumer is us. So I age grade it for 13+. NECA has their stuff age graded higher. So that stuff then lives over in that section because it's not mixed in with the toy stuff for a parent to get confused. Marlon goes through the testing to even do the collector stuff, the DC collector stuff, at 4 or 5+. So he's in there. That's why his stuff is in with the general toy population. Action Force stuff would end up being by the DVDs if I didn't want to pay for the testing. So, yeah. So going back to the original point, like now it's like collector stuff is so freaking hot, and it's like you see now it's like there's less kid focused. Like think about just action figures. Look at if you can go to a Target and see actual shelves with product on it, you'll see that Gamerverse, they did some Gamerverse figures, which are like 5 POA figures, which I did the 5 POA figures for the last 2 Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
We started doing kid stuff that was, we wanted to be the same scale as Legends, because we wanted, if kids had Legends, we wanted that scale to live there.
Right.
And that was a trend that I was part of when I was working on Spider-Man in 2015. We started doing these 5.5-inch figures, and we realized that the 5.5-inch figures, you get more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's more in scale, and kids can have, they don't only these 2 different scales, plus the tooling for a 6-inch figure as opposed to a 4-inch figure isn't incredibly different, which is why we look at it like you get more profitability for a higher scale figure just by paying a little more, when the 4-inch figures, that's why the 4-inch Marvel Universe line died.
Right.
The cost just wasn't there. So, you know, they had the Gamerverse figures, and now they have these new Spider-Man figures that just came out. Other than that, it's Legends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, yes, there's some kid role play stuff, but it's like, it's Legends. It's Legends. Yes, you have the 12-inch Titan Hero, but half, if not 3/4, is collector action figures. DC stuff. You know, it's like, yes, Spin Master has the smaller stuff, but it's like the McFarlane. McFarlane has 3 rows of figures, taking up so much more. Jurassic Park collector stuff, you know. Star Wars is collector stuff, even though they have 4-inch figures and 6-inch figures. But it's like, we all know who's buying that stuff. It's collectors, you know. It's like collectors of like, it's the market now. So, you know, if you see a collector running through Target, they're not going to run to the DVD section. They're going to run to the toy aisle first, because that's where the important stuff is. So,
and you know, common sense will tell you, Bobby, that adult collectors have more disposable income. Parents buying toys for their children, that has a limited time span on it. Adult collectors will collect for years and years and years. So that's just common sense. No one needs to give their resume to prove that they've got some common sense in their head. Another stupid thing I heard recently was that these, you know, Target, Walmart, big box stores are made for parents trying to buy a present for their kid's friend. That couldn't be further from the truth. I have kids. My friends have kids. I've asked them, when you need to buy a present for a kid's birthday party, do you go to the store? They're like, no, I'm not going to spend the time going to the store for another kid's kid. I'm going to just buy it online. It's one click. You go to Target for your own kids or yourself. Common sense. Or just old pre-2015 thinking. So, you know, now it's like, yeah, disposable income. Parents are there, but they're also taking their kids. So they're buying for their own kids. They're not buying for other people's kids. You know, we're buying for ourselves, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's to your point. It's like, yes, we're the ones buying this stuff. Legends aren't flying off the shelves because of kids. They are flying off the shelves because of collectors. And I can tell you right now that when I was still at Hasbro in 2018, I can't speak for what they are now because I don't know. And I'm not going to say what I did in 2018, you know, is the same as what they do now. So, of course, it's a fact. I'm saying that in 2018, Legends was the highest selling stuff. The highest selling stuff. Like, ridiculous. The Marvel. Bigger than Star Wars.
Huh?
Bigger than Star Wars.
No, I'm just saying for, like, the Marvel segment, Legends was the highest selling segment.
Of all the different Marvel products.
All Marvel, So, you know, could have fooled me that retailers don't care about collectors.
Yeah, that is something that I saw in the chat earlier. And speaking of chat, I got to do some super chats here real quick. But right before the show started, somebody was saying that, well, collectors only make up 20% of the toy market. And I'm like, I told the guy, I was like, well, if they're only 20%, then there are a lot of companies, both big and small, vying for the attention of that 20% over the other 80%, the alleged 80% of demand. Like, if wouldn't you rather try and jump into the space where 80% of the buyers are than 20%? And yet Bondi, Mayfex, you know, Hot Toys, Super 7, NECA, what was a big boss fight, Hasbro, Mattel, Playmates, like the list goes on, and they're all trying to go after just that 20%. that to me says common sense says it's not 20%. Now I could be wrong, and those Little Tykes pedal cars are the other 80% of everything sold. I just don't think so. I don't know. Law of averages. Anyway, we'll get back to the conversation here in a second. Ironhead, thank you for the super chat. He says, loving the 1/6 figure display behind you, Tony.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that, mate.
Venkman, thank you for the super chat. He says, I briefly had that vintage collection Bespin Han. Unfortunately, the only one that I could find had a weird paint error, and it looked like he had a receding hairline. Yeah. Okay. I may have now messed myself up here, so let me go over to my channel monetization and see what I got here. Let's see. See all. And, of course, that doesn't work because why would it? Not working for me. Great.
I'll see if I can help here.
No, that's okay. It's fine. I'm just trying to make sure I grab everybody. But Jeff McElway, thank you for the super chat. He says, slightly off topic. When do we see Michael in Action Force as the art? Oh, okay.
We read that one.
We already read that one. Okay. Hold on. No, it's because this window's not showing up. It's fine. All right. So right here we have Hayden TCEM2. I'm sorry I can't pull this up. Hayden says the mayor near my house only has a bunch of Zori Blisses, Yavin Lukes, and Hydromans. They better restock by November or they're going to have a problem. Brian Dillingham, thank you for the super chat. He says, thanks for the great content. You are welcome, sir. Jeff Barker, thank you for the super chat. He says, talk among yourselves.
Thanks, Jeff.
Let's see. Salvador, thank you for the super chat. He says, this stream should come with a warning label. Contents may be extremely hot. With these three handsome men, okay, back to my YouTube social media break. Thanks for popping in, Sal.
Thanks, Sal.
And then let's see. There it goes. And then Dark Joker Zin, thank you for the super chat. He says, wanted to show support for the awesomeness here. Thank you, Dark Joker Zin. That is a man we all know and love. Gundam Warrior, thank you for the super chat. He says, I can't wait for Toy Guru's excuses in his video tomorrow. Lio Convoy Reviews, thank you for the super chat. He says, what doesn't make sense to me is the constant blaming of Toys R Us closing. It's been 4 years. They've had time to adjust. I totally agree with that comment. I totally agree with that. Grindhead Jim, thank you for the super chat. He says, dropping love for the mods. George, thank you for the super chat. He says, my 80s DC Superpowers Dr. Fate played to pieces. Helmet is attached to my woodworking apron. Anyone else make custom paraphernalia for nostalgia's sake? I guess that's something you'll have to find out in the chat. Jim Largo, thank you for the kind super chat. He says, thanks, gents, for this conversation. Store exclusive has become synonymous with unattainium. How does the toy industry benefit? And that is something we're about to get into. Plockman040, thank you for the super chat. He says, hey, everyone. Michael, read my after this, please. First off, sorry for such a small super chat. I don't want to break that rule of how little I can type, but my dad has me on a budget because I bought tools. Also getting ready to start video making to help build funds to buy my injection molder. Good. Plockman, sounds like you're on your way, man. Good luck with it. Let's see. Lio Convoy, thank you for the super chats. Boosting Plockman's messages. And then Bjorn, thank you for the super chat. He says, just cuz. Matt Movie 611 is here. Thank you for the super chat. He says,
hey,
there's always great fun seeing you three together on Retro Blasting. And then Commandant VHS, thank you for the super chat. He says, half the toy aisles where I live are empty, which brings us up to date. So now let's get back to the discussion. Oh, wait, we have one more. World Meta Cardboard says, thank you, World Meta Cardboard. He says, the Walgreens near me had $5 Marvel 5 POA figures in poly bags from Hasbro. It is possible for them to make real toys at a good price. Interesting. Wow, 5 POA figures in poly bags at Walgreens. I didn't know that was even a thing. James Salzberg, thank you for the super chat. He says, for Action Force Series 3, any chance for a Mother of Pearl Colt or Colt Peacemaker?
Not for Series 3. but I do have a character that is planned for Series 4 that may have 2 of those.
All right. All right. I'm gonna let that mystery hang in the air for a moment. So we were just getting into this discussion, and people in the super chat have been talking about the empty toy aisles, things like that, and where the tipping point is there. So I want to kind of couch it or orient this question this way. We've all been lifelong toy collectors. We've probably all of us, depending on, barring some moments in our lives where, like, for example, Tony, you were deployed in another country where there weren't retail stores and you were very busy, or, you know, I was in school and spent several weeks just going back and forth between classrooms and my dormitory or whatever. Barring those periods in our lives, we've all probably, every time we go into a retail store, we go to the toy aisle. It's just a thing. We just go, even if we don't buy anything, we look. Mm-hmm. And so we see, you know, as we live our lives, we see this diminishment. Now, the inferences you can make as an uneducated person in this space like myself, meaning as far as like not having been in the industry, even though I worked at a Toys R Us, I worked at a Toys R Us in the late 90s. So I got, you know, it was horn of plenty back then. You get whatever you wanted all the time. The inferences I can make, the conjectures that I can make, the posits that I can bring up are, one, that the retailer isn't ordering enough, or the distribution is wonky because of stories I've heard of, say, after I did the Mando Retro Collection video, a bunch of British collectors told me they're piling up over there and are on clearance and can't get sold. Whereas over here, they're in very high demand and they're nowhere to be found.
They're on clearance here in Australia as well, let me tell you.
Right. So there's that inference. And then there's also the one where you could say to yourself, well, as the uneducated buyer, you could say to yourself, okay, it's either retailers not ordering enough, or the distribution's wonky, or the manufacturer's not making enough. One of the three, right? So all of those things, without any extra, all you've got is your observational data at that point as a buyer. All you've got is, I go to stores every week and there's never anything here. And it's been going on like this for over 6 years. That's all the data I've got. I got nothing else beyond that. So everything I'm about to say after this is, you know, potential, it's opinion with what's the potential for this to be the actual fact. So if enough buyers have the opinion that retailers aren't ordering enough, or the manufacturer isn't making enough, or the distribution is a real problem and it becomes very frustrating to try and buy said company's products, at what point do those opinions from the bulk of your customers start to supersede the triviality of the facts at that point? Because if the facts are all behind the curtain and the products aren't getting into the buyer's hands in a consistent and, you know, satisfying way, isn't that the point in a business where things start to need to change? Am I wrong here? Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like,
no.
Okay. So, Bobby, what do you think is the tipping point? Like, anecdotally, say, where it starts to not matter what the structural facts are of minimum order quantities and things like that, and planograms, and when does the customer's opinion waive all of that minutia? When does that supersede that?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's I would like to say that, you know, it won't affect things immediately.
Uh-huh.
It takes time to build. For instance, like why collecting got really hot with Legends.
Mm-hmm.
You had Legends. Like,
right.
why all of a sudden did it take, you know, halfway through Marvel's cinematic universe for it to like really catch on? And
mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did, but you know what? They saw it with the Guardians wave, with the
mm-hmm.
Cap Winter Soldier wave, and then like, oh, okay, well, for the next one, let's order some more. and they ordered some more, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, all right, those did really well. All right, let's up next time. It's not like they could say, oh shoot, we sold out of that. I need more. You're not going to get more. You just have to wait till the next game starts. So, it's not the manufacturer's not manufacturing enough. Because my theory is, and I've never gotten confirmation that this is actually, a fact,
right?
By talking with people I worked with and that sort of thing. Say Target orders 100,000 of a Captain America figure, but there's 1,600 stores. Target is thinking, okay, well, we know we've sold, 1,000 of Iron Man the year before, so let's order, let's order. Or sorry, let's say they sold 100,000 Iron Man. They're like, all right, let's order 150,000 Cap, spread over our 1,600 stores throughout the country. It's not every store orders the same amount.
Right.
Some stores are in bigger areas and that sort of thing. So if that 100,000 starts here, and then with each store it goes to, it's getting less and less and less and less and less and less. Then you get a bunch of stores out west that have high quantities that they ordered, Midwest not so much. But then by the time it gets to the East Coast and they have big orders, there might not be enough for them to fill, because with that store over here in Rhode Island, I'm putting in an order for 7 cases of that Cap. But by the time it gets through distribution, my Target, hub might say to me, all right, we know you ordered 7, but we don't have 7 available. We have 3. So you're going to get 3. It's like, okay, well, that's how that works. Just because you order 7 does not mean you're going to get 7. So
that seems like a big miss, considering that the East Coast has a lot of areas and big cities where people would want that.
But like I said, the wave of distribution over the country, it's like putting enough peanut butter on a knife and then saying, "Am I going to get across the whole piece of bread before I get to the other side?"
So there might not be as many. There might not be as many actual. I'll put this out there, and you guys throw it back in my face if I'm wrong. There might not be as many actual Cap buyers, like Captain America fans, in some of those mid-markets. But there's 1 or 2 really savvy scalpers in one market there. And they're getting more than anybody's seeing on the East Coast.
Yep.
And so they're able to then throw those up on eBay because they got more cases at the North Dakota Target than, in the middle of nowhere, than the New York City suburb Target did. And so they're able to throw those up there. So I guess my question is, why is that distribution model from west to east not being augmented so that they're getting more of the product where the demand is, rather than it just trickling down or trickling east?
I listen, I wish I knew. Eventually it's like when the movie comes out, the first Action Force stuff that's going to hit Target and Walmart is probably going to be the movie wave stuff. But then I'll get my first kind of glimpse at that, like firsthand, and see how that is done. It's like, I'm going to do everything possible to make sure, because the way it works is like at Hasbro, we had, our team, designers, brand managers, that sort of thing. But then we would kind of pitch to the sales team, and then the Hasbro sales team would then have to take all of our hard work and pitch to the buyers. And that always bothered me, because I would sit in these sales meetings where I'm watching someone pitch my product, and I'm like, you dumb a-hole. Like, not describe that product in an exciting way at all. And every now and then they would, like when I was on Spider-Man, they would let me come in and do the presentation because I was a really good presenter.
Right.
And I got to the point where I was always presenting my product. No one ever presented my product for me. I was good at doing what I did and selling it and making it look as awesome as I had planned it.
Right.
And then when you see some dummy just up there just saying, oh, and this is our this. And it's like, okay, no, you got to like sell them. And then Hasbro never held the buyers accountable. So, for instance, the the Legends item the first ever Legends item I worked on was a 5-pack for Toys R Us. That was the all new X-Men box set.
Right.
Back in 2012 or 2013. And it was originally an Amazon exclusive. Now, we had tooled up new parts for it. You know, granted, it wasn't a lot of tooling. It was, you know, but money was spent.
Yeah.
Money was spent. And then at the last minute, like, we had tooled everything. We were, you know, we went to production. Like, they went to production. I had samples. At the last minute, Amazon was like, nah, I changed my mind. We're not going to take that. Now, you would think that they should be on the hook, right? No, you told us you were going to order it. You agreed to X amount of pieces. We produced X amount of pieces. We paid for tooling. We gave you this item. You can't say that. Hasbro was always so scared of flexing their muscles and pissing off the retailer that they're like, oh, okay, you don't have to take it. Thanks. But you're going to take this other stuff, right? And it was like, I'm sitting there like, what do you mean? They just dropped it. So I was saying to my brand manager at the time, like, you have a new home for it? And he's like, no one's gonna take this item, you know, Amazon pass. I'm like, so what are you doing to sell this item? So I kind of went over his head and I went to my boss. You know, I'm design, the brand manager is marketing. He's a different team. I went to my boss. I said, hey, listen, man, I'm not trying to throw anyone on the bus, but listen, I fight for the items I work on, especially items we've put money into. I said, we tooled this item. Amazon didn't take it, and no one's fighting to get the item somewhere else. He kind of went to my brand manager and was like, yo, what the hell, you know, why aren't we finding a home for this? We paid money for it, blah, blah, blah. So my brand manager got mad at me like, hey, why'd you throw me in their bus? I'm like, listen, I'm fighting for this product. If you're not going to fight for the product, let me fight for the product.
Right.
And it turned out I did what I needed to do to get the product made, and then we got Toys R Us to take it. And it became a Toys R Us exclusive. No one knows that was an Amazon exclusive at first.
Right.
But that's how that happens. Like, retailers change their mind all the time. Do you know, like, we would always, like, have this running kind of joke about Costco. We would do, when I was part of when I first got hired at Hasbro, I was on the exclusives team where it was just a team of 2 designers, and we would handle all of the exclusive product. So I did Transformers, I did Nerf, I did Star Wars, I did G.I. Joe, I did Marvel. But it wasn't until, like, they broke up that team and then each brand absorbed their own exclusives like it is now. So I remember, like, Costco would be like, all right, we want 2 Star Wars items, we want 2 Marvel items, we want 1 this item, 1 that item. And I would put my decks together and I would design all these things and figure out what we can do. And it was always like, all right, well, here are your 10 items that we pitched to you. And they're like, okay, well, we want these 7. And I was like, how many of those do you think we're actually going to do? And we would end up doing like 2 or 3. You know, it was like, that happened so often. Like, what you guys don't realize behind the scenes is just because something ends up a Target exclusive or a Walmart exclusive doesn't mean it started out that way. You know, or if something became a Target exclusive that maybe was meant to be mainline, but you know what? They didn't get enough orders for it, you know? And then they're like, oh crap, you know, we expected this to be 100,000, but you know, retail is only taking 40,000. Well, okay, well, now we're gonna have to make an exclusive, that kind of thing. Right. A lot of exclusives kind of end up that way. So, you know, the exclusive item game it's like chess, man. Pieces are always changing and moving off the board and this and that. Like, it's crazy in that sense. And that's, you know, that's kind of the unfortunate thing. And it's like, also, like, when you see segments, like, I bet you the G.I. Joe retro line, now I'm saying this is opinion, I'm just guessing on it, saying this is a fact because I've worked on G.I. Joe before, and just because I worked on G.I. Joe means that everything that G.I. Joe does now, I know the facts for. What I'm saying is that if I had to guess, and give my opinion, the G.I. Joe retro line that is now a Walmart exclusive, I bet you did not start out as a Walmart exclusive. I bet you that it started out as like the Hasbro sales team pitching to retail and saying, we have classifieds and we have this retro line. And you know, the retailers, they go through their decks, and, you know, after they do the presentation, they take a week or so, they go through their decks, and then they give their prelim numbers. Probably turned out that no one really took that, and Walmart probably had a little interest. And then what Hasbro probably does is they're like, okay, well, Target really didn't take it. Maybe Target took a little bit, but then Walmart took more. But say we allocated for 50,000 of that line, Target said they'll take 10,000, and Walmart said they'll take 30. Well, we still need 50. So what we'll say is, all right, Target, we're actually not going to sell to you. We're going to make an exclusive. They go to Walmart and they're like, listen, we know you wanted 30, but say you take all 50, we could probably give you better margins or that sort of thing. I'm not saying that is a fact of how it works. If I had to guess on how the business works, just by my experiences and talking with the people and being at Hasbro for almost 7 years and doing my thing now, still being in the toy industry, like that's how that would probably work. At least that's probably how I like. Listen, if I was going to retail and I couldn't find homes for stuff, I would probably go and I would do something like that to go and find a home for an item. It's just business. It's just business.
Well, speaking of business, oh, sorry, Tony, go ahead.
I was just saying, that just, it makes total sense, but what you're explaining there makes total sense to me. You haven't talked around in circles and just blamed everything on planograms and COVID. So
I was actually going to address that whole. I was going to direct that to you, Tony, because the exclusives thing has been a constant headache for U.S. collectors for a while. But I've also heard it's even worse for people outside the U.S. who are toy collectors. Can you relate some of those experiences and what you deal with when you hear that something is an exclusive? How often is that even accessible to you?
Pretty much never. So, you know, like I'm just using this as an example with the Cobra Island stuff, simply because we have Target here in Australia and you have Target US, but we don't get the Target exclusives here. So that's so there must be, you know, just because they're both called Target Australia, if it is the same company, it's a completely different, it's the Australian department or branch or whatever you call it. So in my experience, certainly over the last 4 to 5 years, any kind of American store exclusive is not available here whatsoever at any store. You have to resort to online, get it shipped from overseas. All we get is mainline stuff. I think there are the odd occasion very odd occasion where we may get something exclusive to an Australian store. I can't be, but it's always something ridiculous, like a Black Series Star Wars Snow Trooper in Christmas colors.
Right.
You know, and that might be exclusive to EB Games or something like that. But yeah, primarily we just get the mainline stuff here in Australia, and we don't. If you want the exclusives, you've got to resort to some kind of online boutique store that's importing stuff. That may change. Like I heard a really interesting bit of information very recently. When I was in Perth a couple of days ago, I've got a good friend of mine who owns a collectible toy store. Haven't seen him for a while. Popped in to see him, picked up some McFarlane Batman 66 stuff. But I was having a chat with him and, you know, asking how he's been going through COVID and all this kind of thing. And he was telling me that, you know, he's had this store for, I want to say about 7 or 8 years now. He's had this shop. He's doing quite well. He's been struggling from the start to get an account with Hasbro, but he's way too small fry for Hasbro. They're like, no, you've got to place an $80,000, you know, $50,000 US dollar order to even open an account with us. So he has to go through other sort of avenues to get the product that he wants for his store. But he was telling me that he's concerned about the future of his business because here in Australia, we have a massive chain of stores called JB HiFi. JB HiFi sell physical media, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, computers, TVs, stereos, keypads, cameras, all of that. I don't know what the American equivalent is, but it's probably the biggest chain in Australia for that type of product. You know, that's where I go to get, you know, my video cameras and all of that kind of stuff.
It was a gorgeous store. It rivals and beats Best Buy in every category here. I was there at the one right outside Melbourne because they had Kylie Minogue's 1994 reissue album. That's where I got it. Was a JB Hi-Fi. They held it for me. I drove out there. I have a picture of myself with it right outside the JB Hi-Fi. Everything you're saying about that store is right on the money, Tony. So please continue.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's a fantastic store. Huge, an electronic department store. I don't know how he knows this information. He said I'm quite concerned because JB Hi-Fi have now decided that their store is the ideal place to start selling adult collectible figures. And they're going to start buying in Legends, Black Series. Because you're seeing gaming stores start to do this, because gaming stores can see the writing on the wall. You know, my son's been a gamer most of his life. He stopped going in and buying physical discs some time ago, and everything now is downloaded. Well, the thing with JB Hi-Fi, maybe they'll stop selling physical discs of games, but they're still selling the consoles, the screens, the controllers, the cameras, the keyboards, the computers. So they're not going away, and they're going to start buying in adult collectible product because they know there's a huge market for it. And you know, certainly for someone like myself, you know, I earn a decent salary, I earn a decent income. You know, I like to spend money on toys, and even though I'm mainly a vintage collector, if I'm in Target or Kmart, I will walk down the toy aisle, and if I see a cool toy, I will buy it. But when I'm down in Perth, when I'm in the city, I go into a lot more JB Hi-Fis than I do into a Target because I'm also on the lookout for Blu-rays, and I'm a gadget guy. I want a new keyboard for my computer and that kind of thing. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to go in Australia. And JB Hi-Fi is such a massive chain across Australia. They could easily get that Hasbro account. Will in the future, will we start getting JB Hi-Fi exclusives that you guys can't get in the States?
Right.
Well, you two will get them because I'll buy them and send them to you because you're my buddies.
I mean,
sorry, go. I just wanted. There I am. Woo. JB Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Very nice.
Sorry, Bobby, you were saying.
I mean,
go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's a very viable option because Hasbro is already doing UK exclusives. Very rarely it happens. But for those of you that remember, Legends, I'm trying to remember what year we were doing it. Maybe 2017, 2018 we started doing it. Maybe 2017. We were doing like these best of waves where I think we did a best of wave that was the Hulkbuster, where we took a wave of, say, 5 great figures, not any particular figures. I think they were all movie figures. We took like the best 5 figures, and then we put them in a wave with the Hulkbuster. And then we made the Hulkbuster a slightly different color red or added some slightly different deco. And then that was a UK exclusive wave. I remember that like pissed people off because they were like, wait a second. If I want to get this variant, which was a better looking Hulkbuster, like I remember thinking, like I had one in my office. I'm like, this is such a better looking Hulkbuster. But people are like, how am I going to get this whole wave? And also it's like it's a heavy wave because it's Hulkbuster. So it's like spending that shipping to get to the United States. So it's like, I get it, man. Like that kind of stuff. Like it's hard because yes, do I have exclusives for people? Yes. But it's the nature of it all. Like Big Bad Toys is a great partner. And if they come to me like, hey, we want an exclusive, what am I going to do? I'm going to tell this great partner, no, I'm not going to make an exclusive for you. That's not going to build on a relationship.
Right.
So it's like you have to. But I don't think it's like that so much for Hasbro. It's like, yes, Target wants their own exclusives, but it's not building relationships like I'm trying to build a relationship. But also, there's things that I'm taking into consideration. For instance, like there's an exclusive for Series 2 that hasn't been revealed yet. That's for Big Bad. And I think it's probably going to be the highest selling figure of the whole line, like ever, because it's such an awesome figure.
Right.
And I want to, I haven't had the conversation with them yet, But I want to have the conversation with them. Like, listen, you know, I want this to be an exclusive for you. But if they say they're only willing to take a certain amount of pieces, because, you know, it's like no retailer wants to be left with product. But say they only want to take X amount. If I want to gamble and I want to say, well, I think that's going to sell double that, I might talk to them and say, listen, you get the exclusive for 6 months and you have 6 months to sell through. But then I will order my own quantity that I'll sell. It'll still be a big bad exclusive, but I'll have it available on my site to sell as well. Like, I want to do that because I want to give people the opportunity to get that, you know, because it's like, I don't like the scalping nature. I really don't like that. You know, it's like I was talking with one of my vendors and they wanted an item to be a lot lower and I want it to be more because I don't like that. I don't like, you know, and they're like, well, you know, it's if something is coveted, then it makes collecting your line like more collectible. And I'm like, yes, but I don't want that. Like, I think you can collect a line that's readily available. And, you know, yes, there can be a few rare items, but having something so rare doesn't make your line any more or less collectible, you know? And it's like, if you're going to do something super rare like that, like I'm doing with the Slammer figure. Slammer figure is the same exact Sarge figure as the mainline version. He's just in different packaging. Right. Yes, it's limited to 500, but it's one of those things where if you're a completist, all right, you got to have it. All right, well, listen, then you get into that collector pond. You know, the hunt collector pond. But for everyone else, it's like, it's not like you're an out of the box collector saying like, oh, I got to have that because it's a different version. It's not a different version. It's just here's something that's a little cooler, a little more exclusive. And it's like, I'm only doing 500 because it also is just the same figure in mainline. You know, you have to be very, very particular on what you give because keeping your fan base happy, that sort of thing, it's really important. And, you know, yes, like Hasbro yes, they care about their bottom line. It's like, yeah, they're making money. So are they really going to listen to, you know, collectors? Probably not. And that has nothing to do with collectors being important or not. Right. It's their perception. It's like, you know, listen, when I was on the brand, the guy running the brand literally said to me one day, I don't care who's buying this product as long as people are buying the product. So it's like they didn't care whose money it was, whether it was a 90-year-old grandmother, 20-year-old collector, 6-year-old kid. They just do not care. It doesn't matter whose hand is holding that $20 bill, as long as a hand is holding that $20 bill. Right. That's the unfortunate part about it.
So that means that they're not really doing like a demographic breakdown of who their buyers really are in these product lines at this point. Like they're just kind of just hoping they fly off the shelves.
I'm sure they're doing something. Sorry, someone in the chat just asked. No, this is a Mega Man I designed when I was at Hasbro. Sorry, off topic. I think they're definitely doing that research, but I don't think it really weighs. Like, you know, like, yeah, we did, you know, all sorts of kind of testing and that sort of thing. But my opinion is if you're not getting the whole sample, it's hard to really, you know, make a claim. It's like if you're taking 100 Legends fans, you know, I don't think that's enough to judge what a Legends fan would want. Right. You know? Like we did, you know, the figure, the vote on a figure at Comic-Con. We did it one time, I believe in 2015 for a 4-inch figure on the line I was working on. And it ended up being Gamora. And, but we kind of designed that knowing what people like. It's almost like they rigged the system. It's almost like when I was at Hasbro, you're the casino. Yes, you're getting to play at the table, and you may think you might have a chance to win. At the end of the day, we're the only ones winning. We're rigging the game. You know, it's like when they do these waves, it's like, okay, well, even when they're doing Legend, the 6-inch figures, it's like, okay, well, we probably think one of these two is going to win. All right, but we're definitely going to do one of them in a wave. How many times have you guys seen it? A fan voted figure, but then one of the other figures that was offered ends up in the wave. You know, so it's like, yeah, you're voting, but it's also a small sample. You know, how many people are at Comic-Con? You know, I think they said like 1 million people go to Comic-Con, but not all of them are Legends fans. So how many Legends fans were voting on that day? I don't remember, but you know, that's the kind of thing. All I'm saying is like their sample sizes are never big enough for the research they're doing. They're just not. Like to me, it's like if I want to know the answer, I need the whole entire sample. I can't just have 10% of it or a third of it. I need all of it.
So would it be fair to say, Bobby, when you're talking about Hasbro caring about collectors, that they want to make product that they know the collectors want to buy, but they don't really care if all the collectors get that product?
What? Sorry, what was that?
So Hasbro wants to make product that they know the collectors want to buy, but they don't really care if all the collectors get that product.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a. I don't think they think like like I would care about it on the design level, and even like someone like Ryan Ting, who's a friend of mine. He's the brand manager on Marvel, big time collector, huge Marvel fan. He cares about the brand like a designer cares about the brand. But we've always said as designers, like the designers care more about the brand than anybody or the product they're working on. Once it kind of gets to the next levels, the care goes down. So when it gets to the like I said, the sales team that's pitching this stuff to the retailer, they don't really care. They don't care. They're just like, hey, I got to pitch this line. They don't care if there's one hot figure, it's a hot way, blah, blah. Like that's just not on their radar because they're just not fans. They just don't understand. Like all they care about is we need to move this product. So I just don't think it's on their radar to think everyone should get this that wants it. They're just like, to them, do you know who they care about? They care about the target buyer. They don't care about who they care about who buys the product after it gets to Target. But their main concern is the target buyer. Because then it's the target buyer's responsibility to get it on shelf, put it on end cap or whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's the easy part. Getting the customer to buy the product is easy. You know, if you make a good product we like, it's easy for us to go in there and buy it. You say you go into a store, you see a cool toy, I'm going to buy it. I'm the same way. But the hard part is getting that whole sales team, buying team. That's the hard part, you know. And it's like, look at Walgreens. You notice how Walgreens started taking an absurd amount of legends, and they got a bunch of exclusives like around 2016. Why that was? Walgreens got a new buyer. That buyer is a toy fan. He's a collector. Right. He loves legends. Why do you think that happened? Like, perfect example. You think the buyer for Target is a toy collector? You know, and that's the thing. You should know a thing or two about what you are buying and selling in order to buy and sell something. Like, you know, if I want to change professions and I want to go into I want to become a car salesman. And I know for a fact I hate Fords, which I do. But say I were to, you know, say no one hired me, but a Ford dealership was like, hey, we'll hire a salesman. Think I'm really going to, you think I'm really going to, love selling a Ford? No,
yeah, right. You won't. Yeah.
You know? Or it's like, if I just decided to change profession, say, hey, tomorrow I want to go, you know, sell cars. But it's like, I know nothing about selling cars. Well, do you think I'm going to be any good at selling cars if I'm not a fan of cars or a fan of what I'm doing? It's just, you have to be part of it. And that's why, you know, Hasbro had this trend when they started getting rid of people, you know, they called too passionate about the brand or about the product. They were like the collectors, me, Daryl DePriest, you know, Dave Vonner was a guy, we were labeled people that were the collectors, the fanboys, that sort of thing. And I'm like, why is that a problem?
Right.
We know the brand. We know the consumer.
Yeah.
They think, well, you're too close to the brand, blah, blah, blah. You can't them. I'm the guy you're selling to. Why would you not listen to me? You know,
I think I told you that story. It happened to me at Toys R Us when I worked there. They wanted me working as far away from the Star Wars figures and the action figures in general as possible. Even though I knew all about them and could sell them and answer anybody's questions about them, they had me in rollerblades and they told me, you're too interested in this. The manager literally said, you're too interested in this. We don't want you. What kind of shop are we running here?
Yeah.
You know, I can't even balance on rollerblades. What do you want me to do? Just stand there and reach up and hand people stuff? They have questions, you know, customers have questions. I know you don't know this because you wear your tie and your cheap button-down shirt, and you sit in that little, guardhouse over there, your office. It's ridiculous, and that's a corporate mentality that I've never been able to get around. I'm going to go through a few. Sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
No, my wife and I, we were looking for a new washer the other day. So we went to Home Depot and we were just looking at washers, and the guy running the washer department or the appliance department, you would think like, oh, that guy who's over there, who's put in that role, probably knows about refrigerators and washing machines and dryers and dishwashers because he's in this section. Mm-hmm. I asked him like softball basic questions about this one washer. And he was like, oh, I'm not really sure. And that was like his answer from like the 3 questions I asked him. I'm not really sure. And I'm just like, why are you here? Like, why are you here? Who are you helping? Go back to your little computer and act like you're important because you obviously have no idea what you're doing. So I don't understand. I don't get where that breakdown has started. I've noticed that around all of corporate America, where they do not have the right people in the right jobs.
No.
Either that's not enough jobs to go around, not enough people, or not enough of the right people. Because it's like, I'm just like, listen, man, I know everyone should have the opportunity to work and get a job, but you've got to hire the right people for the right job. I don't know crap about IT. I can't get an IT job, and I'm not going to sit there and argue and be like, you should hire me because I'm willing to work. But I don't know anything about IT, but you should just hire me. It's okay. Yeah. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out.
I had that problem on every company I worked for. They would hire me for a specific set of skills on my resume. And then immediately the day I got hired, after an arduous process of getting into these corporate jobs, they would then immediately put me, like within a month, into a cross-training program out of where they actually hired me for. And it was just constant. It was just constant cross-training that I never actually got used for any of the skills that I had. And that wasn't my fault. That was their plan. It was this master plan. And the joke that I finally made in a presentation at my last job, which was the cable company, I said, I did a presentation where I just showed a screenshot of the character select screen for Super Mario 2. And I said, all right, everybody. I said, here's the deal. I said, I know everybody's obsessed with corporate cross-training and all this kind of stuff. I said, but everybody who knows this game, Super Mario 2, and, it's a bunch of Gen Xers in the room. And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I said, which character, once you understood this game, did you never play? And they were like, Mario. And I said, why? Because he's just kind of okay at everything. And I'm like, right. You memorize which levels need Luigi's high jump. You memorize which levels need Princess Toadstool's long jump. And you memorize which levels need speed, which is Toad. Like,
big, yeah.
Strong and fast. I said, the only person, the only gamer that ever chooses Mario is the guy that's beaten the game so many times, he just needs a challenge. And he's like, hey, I wonder if I can do the whole game with Mario. And I said, that is what corporate people in charge do when everything's running well and all they're doing is sitting in their office needing to justify their existence. They need something to do. And so what do? They start shell gaming their own department, even though the department is now working just fine because the people with the right skills are in the right places. But that doesn't supersede the decision maker's boredom. They're bored. So they want to see if they can play Mario on this one, and it always screws everything up. I was not popular after that presentation with certain people. Real quick, I'm going to get through a bunch of
great analogy, though.
What's that, Bobby?
What a great analogy!
Like, feel free to use it.
I was thinking of like Street Fighter. The same thing happened. It's like, well, you're obviously going to beat the game with the strongest guy, and then it's like, all right, well, I'm going to try to play like Dawson, who's kind of slow. You know, he was like the weaker guy, so it's like, but I want that challenge. I want to beat it with every guy.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think the Mario 2 is a way better example.
Scott Hughes, thank you for the super chat. He says, just wanted to say thank you, gentlemen. You are welcome, sir. World Made of Cardboard, thank you for the super chat. He says, is F-Bomb joining Action Force? Sorry, had to ask.
F-Bomb?
Someone made a custom action figure of Grace and codenamed it F-Bomb.
Oh. Yes, but it'll be an Australian exclusive.
JB HiFi.
JB HiFi.
Nick Cage, thank you for the super chat. He says, "Hey y'all, here's a super chat for you cool cats." Appreciate that, Nick.
Nick Cage. I wish you got to do the Superman movie. Sorry, man. It's sorry. I just watched the documentary the other day, so it was like fresh in my head.
Let's see what else I have here. I hope I didn't permanently lose some. I may have permanently lost some of these super chats. Hold on. Bear with me here. All right. If I've lost any super chats, just let me know, because the system in the background, the dashboard is broken. And when I hit see all, it just shows me a blank screen. So thanks, YouTube. I'm going to do the best I can here. KDAX07, thank you for the super chat. He says, "Good day from Brisbane, Oz. Wondering how you see the current and evolving supply chain issue around the world hindering toy production and distribution." I guess that's for you, Bobby. Do you see that as, I mean, obviously you're living it a little bit right now. Do you see that as a relevant factor right now for companies that are a lot bigger than, say, Valaverse?
Let me just read it again just so I understand what he's getting at. See the current evolving supply chain issue around the world. Yeah, listen, it's going to affect everything. You know, a perfect example of how it'll affect, you know, smaller companies versus, you know, with bigger companies is definitely the cost of shipping. Like, I'm not going to tell you guys what I'm paying for shipping or what it's going to cost. You know, but put it this way. It was a single digit number in the thousands, you know, a single thousands number before COVID. It is now a double digit number, very high in the thousands. So for a container, that's up like, I don't know, 200, 300%. Like, it's disgusting. So that's not okay. And it's like, if you're a company and say, like, I feel for some of these guys, like doing Kickstarters and starting the toy companies, like, say I'm just going to make up numbers. These are not real numbers. I'm just making up numbers, people. Say you make $100,000 on a Kickstarter. Say your operating costs are $50,000. Okay, so you're left with $50,000 profit. Well, if pre-COVID shipping was $1,000, you're still making $49,000 in profit. But say during COVID now and even today, shipping is $48,000. You're now making $1,000 profit. Right. Do you think that small company is going to be able to roll that money into doing a next wave? No. They're going to have to then keep doing the Kickstarter model. Luckily, thankfully, like, I'm so thankful that Action Force got as big as it did, because, like, I still have I had the profit to be able to start Series 2, and now I still have the profit to be able to start Series 3. Right. Because I don't ever want to do the crowdfunding model again. Like, yes, I'll do pre-orders. You know, Four Horsemen, they do pre-orders. Like, that's just the way you do it when you're not a company like Hasbro. Like, you just have to do pre-orders, but you're not doing crowdfunding. Sure. It's kind of fun. I'm already planning to pay for all this. But it's like, if you have to eat that huge cost, like, how are you going to survive? Like, that's, like, I'm thinking that. I'm like, holy crap. Like, I'm thinking, like, if Action Force didn't get big, it'd be a one and done. And it's like, that's, you know, I think you're going to see these new Kickstarters with a much higher fund goal because of that, because they have to take that into consideration. Because it's not where it's just a few $1,000s anymore. It's tens of thousands of dollars that you have to allocate for. And that sucks. Why do pre-orders have to have a sellout rate? In other words, it's not like a limited edition, but yet it kind of is, because a lot of us who have to race off to, you know, Big Bad Toy Store because they're getting inventory from somewhere, or you're trying to get it right from Mattel Creations or Hasbro Pulse. Yep. They're pre-ordering. So you think, well, why isn't there just a window and people just order, and then that determines what their manufacturing volume is going to be for that product, give or take, you know, whatever the I will give you an example, and this is an example that I could say is fact because it's my line. I'm working on it. But this is just an example. I'm not saying that this is how other companies do it. This is how my company does it. And
Right.
this is something I've not announced yet. So this is new news.
Okay.
I'm releasing new news here. Series 2 for Action Force is going. There's going to be one pre-order window. Yeah, write that down. Write this down, Tony. There's going to be one pre-order window. However, we were able to put Series 2 into production, but not all of Series 2. So I want the product. I wanted Series 2 to be done by Chinese New Year. Like, I want it to ship from the factory by Chinese New Year. One, because I want you guys to get Series 2 quick. Like, you waited so long for Series 1, you have to get Series 2 quick. Like, there's no question about it. Now, if you don't know Chinese New Year lasts like 3 weeks. So basically the whole month of February is useless. No factories are open, no shipping, no nothing. So everything shuts down. So you can't do anything for the month of February. So you need to get your product out so that it's on the boat crossing the water during that month that things are shut down. Half of the wave, there's 8 core figures. One is a Valaverse exclusive. One's a Big Bad exclusive. So, those 8 figures are exclusives. But then there's, a basic trooper. There's a gear pack, and there's a weapons pack. Of all those items, half of them will ship before Chinese New Year. So Series 2, the pre-order window will be open for the whole Series 2.
Right.
But the four figures that are going to ship before Chinese New Year, I have to gamble on. I have to gamble on what quantity I am going to give to the factory because I have to guess. Like, this is what I think they're going to sell. So I have to give those numbers. I had to give them to the factory already. So those are already set in stone because I don't want to delay Series 2 anymore. It's like, yes, we went into production with Series 2, but I also don't know what it's going to sell for. It's like, I would love to have the window to be able to put the pre-order up and wait. But if I were to wait, the product wouldn't ship out because I would have to wait. And then the factory would have to go back and make more of the figure that they already made to accommodate for those additional pre-orders that came in. So those 4 figures I have to guess on. I have to talk to my wholesalers and say, look, you have to lock in numbers, but just for these 4. Because the other items will have a bigger window. And we have a longer time to do them. So they'll ship after Chinese New Year, but we have the window to do them. So when I put those pre-orders up, it's quite possible that those 4 figures can sell out, but not the other items.
Right.
Because those 4 have already been allocated for numbers. That's why pre-orders sell out. Because if you open up a pre-order and you say you're going to deliver in a year, yes, pre-orders should never sell out. Because you're basically crowdfunding yourself. You're saying, all right, pre-order windows are open. 2 months later, I'll get final quantity to the factory, finish the product. We could have already been in production, like tooling and that sort of thing during the 2-month window of pre-orders. Then when I give them the final quantity, then they know how many figures to actually like run off the assembly line. And then it's easy. But yeah, that's a year lead time.
Right.
If you want to deliver something quicker, you have to guess at the numbers early. You have to. So that was the dilemma I was unfortunately put in. But it's like all of this had pushed things, and you have to rejigger stuff. And you have to constantly be, figuring out what to do. And I spent like 2 weeks like ripping my hair, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And making sure that the 4 figures would be done for Chinese New Year, which they are, and they'll ship out for Chinese New Year, and you'll be able to get your Series 2 a couple months after your Series 1 stuff. So it's like, that was so important for that to happen. And then it's also great that we split it up because now you're getting the next half of Series 2 a few months after that. And then Series 3 is right at the beginning of the fall. I didn't want that big gap between Series 2 and 3. Now it's like, it was kind of a blessing in disguise that we split up Series 2. It sucks. It's like, I would rather deliver the whole series all at once, but it's better off that this is happening. It's making it easier, and then you feel like you're getting more,
Right.
So that's that's kind of an idea on how pre-orders work. And I'm glad we got to this because someone asked in the chat about pre-orders and why they sell out. And this
that's why I was following up on it.
Yeah. This is why pre-orders sell out, because if you're pre-ordering and you're delivering in less than 6 months, the final quantity had to have been given to the factory way before the pre-orders opened up. So I know, like, I think Four Horsemen, I think they're, I'm not 100% on this. I don't know for sure, but if I may be wrong, I'm not sure, but I think they pre-order and then make to order from those pre-order numbers so that they deliver their pre-orders, you know, a year from when the pre-order opens. It's like, I want to be able to, you know, and you should be able to guess. Like, I should be able to look at what Series 1 sold in quantities and look at the figures and say, all right, well, because to me, Series 2 has just as good, if not better, figures than Series 1. So I could say, well, okay, well, I could figure out what these sold for. But also, I think a lot more people now have eyes on the brand and are waiting for it. And it's like, my extra quantities of Series 1, I hope I sell through. So then I have to take that into consideration. And that's how I was able to figure out my numbers for Series 2 for those 4 figures that I had to guess on. Now, yes, it's a gamble. If it sells out, that sucks, man. Because I was thinking about it, I'm like, shit, you know, I don't want to sell out, because then people hate sellouts, you know, like they hate not being able to get something. Also, as a person doing business, you also don't want to be left with a ton of product. So I hope that I plan my numbers correctly, that I don't sell out of the pre-orders, and then I have a little bit extra in reserve. That's what I'm looking for. What you don't want is like 10, 12,000 in reserve.
Right.
1,000, 2,000 in reserve for the people that missed out or just want more of something, want a troop build, this and that. So you have to just, it's a gamble, man. It's hard. It's hard to think about that. And, like, you know, for someone who's running a company and still currently in the toy industry, not, you know, just making YouTube videos about not being in the toy industry, I can say, like, there's a lot to juggle with, you know. I'm designing the figures. I'm, you know, dealing with all this production stuff. I'm trying to plan out for Series 2 and 3. I'm trying to expand the company in a direction to bring in another license, to get this movie stuff happening, to get animation, to get into video games, to get more people involved in the line, like, you know, celebrities and this and that. You know, so it's like, that's like all on me. And it's like, I guess you could probably say I'm like a toy guru, but I'm not that pretentious to actually call myself that. But, you know, there's a lot that goes into, you know, this business and making this stuff. Not just, you know, saying, well, I have some experience from, you know, almost 10 years ago, but, you know, but it's also different for every company. And, you know, the way I'm doing pre-orders is way different than someone else will do pre-orders. It's just because it's not like apples to apples. It's like apples to oranges. Yes, we're all fruit. Like, yes, DC and Marvel are both superhero lines, but they're nowhere near the same. And you can't speak on experiences of one or the other, because one's a dominant champion in the action figure world and in entertainment and movies and stuff, and the other is just a small collector line. So it's not apples to apples. You know, so just because I could say, well, this is how pre-order, you know, I do my pre-orders, doesn't mean that's how pre-orders are going to be done. So when I tell you guys, this is what I'm saying, listen, that's not the way other people are doing it. They could have another pre-order formula that I don't know about. That's pretty awesome. And I, you know, just over time, maybe I'll learn that kind of stuff, and talking with other companies and seeing how other people handle it. And that's kind of how you grow, and you got to see what works. And listen, it's been going well for Action Force so far. And, you know, you know, besides the distribution and then the getting stuff here, which you know, we're remedying now, it's all been going incredibly well. Will there be a miss every now and then? Yes. Yes. No company's perfect. You know, no company's going to hit home runs every time. You know, if you hit a single, a double, sometimes you strike out. But it, you know, it's very different for everyone, especially in the toy industry.
Well, real quick, Bobby, if the Garrison Cavalry is one of the figures that's shipping before Chinese New Year, just know I need 6.
I know we're at the hour-and-a-half mark, which is where I like to keep it. So I'm going to read some super chats and then throw to both of you guys the final question of the night. So real quick. Tree Theodore, thank you for the super chat. He says, a lobster for Tony. Happy to see all three of you healthy. Thank you, Tree. Appreciate that. And then we have World Made of Cardboard. He says, same for me. When I worked at Toys R Us in the 90s, they put me in bicycles. I knew everything about every toy on aisle 7C, but they put me in bicycles. Yeah, exactly. They have this allergy to people who actually are passionate about the things they do at a company.
Maybe they're scared of someone putting their childhood drawing into a toy line.
Can I interrupt for 1 second just because I have to address something?
Sure.
Floodburger, I didn't send the letter, so I can say whatever I want. That's the difference.
What is Floodburger saying?
He was trying to be snarky and wasn't understanding, or they weren't understanding.
Let's see. Anthony Whitehead, thank you for the super chat. He says, for you guys speaking the truth. You are welcome, sir. And then here I have, let's see, Jeremy. I think I can get to your super chat, or no, maybe I can't. Jeremy, let me see if I can pull this up here, man. Here we go. It has been real screwy tonight on the super chat stuff, so apologies.
I mean, at least our internet is working. You know, at least we're professional enough to keep our stuff on the screen.
Jeremy, thank you for the super chat. He says, 3 of my favorite YouTubers all in one place. #ActionForceAF. And let's see. Then we have right here we have Andrew Alvarez. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, has anyone here seen the figurehead review of the HasLab Sentinel having ratcheted hips and knees? I have heard that there is a ratchet inside, but I've also been hearing that that ratchet is ineffective because all these Sentinels are falling over. You've seen the videos, you've seen the photos. I'm sure they've got Sentinels now marionetted on strings and they're dancing on TikTok at this point. They're so loosey-goosey. All right, I think we are. Venkman, thank you for the super chat. He said, wow, it's amazing what a conversation about the current toy industry sounds like coming from someone who knows what they're talking about. Here you go, Bobby. All right. Retroblasting, Jeff has a question. Can Bobby tell us what black magic he used to get Sergeant Slaughter into Action Force?
I just reached out to him.
Oh, you did?
Well, actually, what I did was, if you're not familiar with Horcruxes, well, let me tell you. No, listen, it was a little more than that. I was able to get his agent's contact information, and I just reached out to him. Just the way I saw it, like, look, no one was doing anything with him. I love Sergeant Slaughter. I'm a huge Sergeant Slaughter fan, not as just a wrestler and a GI Joe. It's just he was awesome, part of my childhood, and Action Force will always be sort of classified, no pun intended, as a GI Joe ripoff line. And I get it, and I'm kind of okay with it. You know why? Because it's like that's who I'm making this stuff for, is for GI Joe fans. Like, if I were making a superhero line, like, I guess you could say, well, oh, you're a Marvel Legends ripoff. Well, yeah, I'm making superheroes. Yes, I'm making military figures, and yes, I want this to be marketed for Joe fans, but also lovers of toys and other fans as well. So I knew, like, okay, well, getting Sergeant Slaughter, well, that might be kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, well, you're really trying to, like, copy G.I. Joe. But listen, Kirk Bazigian, who's one of the godfathers of G.I. Joe, a good friend of mine, he wrote the playbook. And he didn't just write the playbook. He wrote a perfect, like, Super Bowl winning playbook. So why would I not, like, copy that playbook? Mm-hmm. Like, he got Sergeant Slaughter, did pretty well for the company. So I said, well, how could it hurt to ask? And I got his agent's contact, and I just reached out to him. I said, I'm starting this new line, this and that. And it's like, when I think about it, it's like Action Force was in such infancy at that time. And, he was like, okay, what's your pitch? I'll gladly, throw it to Sarge and see what he thinks. And I remember I spent like a week putting a deck together, and I had this pitch for how he could be incorporated into Action Force. And I also wanted to be something where he wasn't like his wrestling persona or the G.I. Joe persona. I wanted him to be something different. I wanted him to be this new iteration of Sergeant Slaughter. And I think he really liked that he was something different. So he came back and he was like, I love it. And, there was very, very little negotiation back and forth as far as monetary. I was just starting and he understood that. So, but I wanted to make sure that, listen, Sarge is, he's worth his weight in gold. He's an icon. So we found something that was mutually beneficial for all of us. And we signed the contract. And I was like, holy crap. Like, did I really just get Sergeant Slaughter? And then it's like, been doing everything with his agent. And then all of a sudden, like, we jumped on a call and I'm like talking to Sarge and he's like loving what I put together. And, I sent him comics and he knew things from the storyline. I'm just like, this is like amazing. So, that's kind of how the Sarge thing happened. It was incredibly easy. Even like you just have to have the outlet. Like if you could just get to the person, like I know like in this day and age, like, a celebrity on social media, it's, some people are just hard to get to. Like if I wanted, I'm trying to think of someone ridiculous. Like if I wanted Christian Bale on the line, I'm pretty sure it would be hard to get Christian Bale to even like answer back. You'd have to go like his agent's assistant's laundry folder to like then kind of work your way up. I'm not saying that Sarge isn't as big as Christian Bale. I think it's just different levels. There's different levels to this stuff. Even like Tim Kennedy, the day I reached out to Tim Kennedy, now a friend of mine also kind of sent a message the same day I sent a message, but Tim Kennedy's guy like got back to me within like 2 hours. And he's like, sure. When do you want to set up a call? We set up a call and I didn't expect him to be on the call. All of a sudden I'm talking to Tim Kennedy. And I'm like, what? This is awesome. I've watched your fights. You're awesome. And I was like trying not to like geek out about it. But it's like just getting, if you have the means just to reach out to people, sometimes you'll get people to answer you. Sometimes you won't. Listen, I've been trying to find a publisher to take over the comics. I can't tell you how many publishers I reached out to that have not gotten back to me. So it's like, hit or miss. But if you don't take the chance, you won't know.
Right.
So with Sarge, the worst he could have said was, sorry, we're not interested. Or, nah, it's not going to work out. Say the money thing didn't happen. So I was trying to get my hopes up, and then we signed the contract, and I'm like, let's go. So,
Scott Hughes, thank you for the super chat. He said, word to your moms. Bobby came to drop bombs. And and then let's see here. We have another one from World Made of Cardboard. He says, thank you guys for a great evening. Even my wife wants a Desert Rat figure waiting for the pre-order. And Venkman says, also, unlike a certain someone who talks in circles and not going anywhere, listening to Bobby talk about the real toy industry was quite refreshing. I agree with you, sir. And so the final question of the night is for both of you. I confronted an attitude that seems pretty pervasive, not limited to one individual. A number of individuals have sort of presented this idea that this is the way it is. And companies don't change. So we need to just get happy about it. Like things don't change. So what I wanted to ask Tony as a collector is, what would you like to see change about the way big toy companies do business, if anything? And then I'd like to then throw it to Bobby to say, what do you think is possible? What do you think these companies do have the potential to do, adjust, juke, shift? So Tony, take it away.
Well, first of all, I'm really glad you brought this up, because that's one of the key questions I kind of wanted to address while we're on this stream today, and that's around the statements that, well, this is the way it is, and that's the way it is. It doesn't mean that things can't and should not change for the better. And they most likely will, but I also look at it as though, will it be better for the corporation from the business point of view, or will it be better for the collector? The market's probably going to change, and it may not necessarily get better for us. It may actually get worse. So I suppose my final comment is to the audience themselves. and that is, this may be the way it is at the moment. It may change, but why are some of you choosing to side with the big corporation as opposed to your fellow collector? Become a united front, speak your mind, and, you know, the customer should always be right, but it's not necessary. That doesn't happen when we all keep accepting things for being the way they are. So I hope that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And James seems to agree with you. He says, U.S. Steel chose not to change. Ask Pittsburgh how long that took to resolve itself. Yeah. So Bobby, being in the middle of this and having been in the middle of this for a long time and still actively making toys the manufactured way overseas, you got your own action figure lines with a very prominent trademark right now. What do you think is possible for the toy industry to do to change and improve some of these situations, if anything? Or maybe Big Toy can't change. I don't know. I'm just trying to get your perspective on it, your opinion. Nothing that you know. We all agree that we're all using learned opinions here based on the facts we know. So please go ahead.
Yeah, but my opinions are facts, Michael. Come on. I think it's tough because I think there's a lot to that question. I think the machine is kind of too big to really change. Now, I agree. You've said it before. I think Tony said it before. Vote with your wallet. I'm in full agreement of that. You know why? Because it's like I've seen firsthand. It's like my first Kickstarter failed. People voted with their wallet. Like, you know, people vote with their wallets with a lot of Kickstarters and crowdfunding stuff. The voting with the wallet only affects smaller tier companies. Because you know why? Because it's almost like what I said about you need the whole sample size. If you get 30% to vote with their wallet, you're never going to get 100%. That's why, strikes, when companies go on strike, it's so hard to pull off because there's always going to be that one guy that's like, but I really need this job.
Right.
Like, no, man, this company can't do it. If we all walk, what are they going to do? They can't survive. So it's like, it's all or nothing, you know? And yeah, a 30% is a big hit, but I don't know if that 30% is really big enough. Like, what is that? That's the thing. What is big enough? What's the bigger, you know? And at that point, it's like, you know, if we start voting with their wallet, is it going to change, or like, is it going to change for the better, or is it just going to say, all right, well, we're just not going to make that anymore? You know, that's what I don't have the answer to, because I've seen Hasbro cancel lines that were still making millions of dollars, but had dropped from the previous year, but we're still making over forecast. But they looked at it like, ooh, that's on the downtrend. We should probably pull the plug on it. And they pull the plug on it. Somebody making millions of dollars. So, you know, that sort of thing, it's like, well, you know, how long do you want to ride it out for? And at that point, it's like, all right, well, I would have liked to have seen them take that line that I was talking about. I'm not going to say what line it was, but take a year off, rejigger it, deal with the over ordering that happened in series 1 and 2, and then get it back out, because I think the kids still loved it. It was a kid line, and I think the kids still want more of that. We just have to tweak things a little bit. But they never want to just like tweak things. They want to just, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? You know, and so you know, again, I don't know if that's what's going to work. I know that as far as, you know, things that need to change are definitely world issues. I don't want to get political. I'm just saying that, you know, my buddy sent me like a video. He's a big conspiracy theorist, and this guy was talking about, by the end of the year, the U.S. economy is going to collapse, and hope you can live in your house for the next year and have everything, because everything's good. And I'm like, dude, I hope this isn't true. I got a business. Like, you know, I have to survive. So I'm just like, if that happens, that's really bad. You know, I think it's bad for everyone. I think we're too big for it to get to that point, but something needs to change. We need to get out of this COVID stuff. We need to get back to making things, you know, jobs, people going back to work. We need to get back to, you know, trucking, you know, There's 60,000 less truckers, which is another big distribution issue. You know, this whole LA port thing, you got to address that thing. Like, listen, man, that should be like agenda number one to address that stuff. You got to fix our infrastructure. In order for the toy industry to continue to survive, that world stuff bigger than us, bigger than collectors, bigger than getting your toys. Guys, there's much bigger like issues in the world. I know, like, but I need my figures. I gotta get my stuff. Listen, you just have to get things better, like that sort of stuff. So once we get kind of out of this crap that we've been in, and maybe things get back to normalcy, what are going to be the residual effects? You know, they're talking about like this shipping issue. Like, I'm looking at the shipping stuff, and you know, I watch videos all the time about people explaining this shipping issue stuff. And some guys are saying it'll be fixed by February. Some guys are like, it won't be fixed till the end of 22. Some people are like, it'll go into 23. And I'm like, this is bad.
Right.
All options are bad. So, you know, you got to fix that first and foremost. You know, because I think in the long run, it's going to start hurting smaller companies, you know, me, and who knows if it'll trickle up to stuff like NECA, you know, I don't know. You know, but yeah, it's things that need to change. World stuff needs to change. As far as like me personally, what I would like to see change, I would like to see a company, and I'm just going to use Hasbro as an example, just because I work there and I got to see this stuff firsthand. They do not remember that they make toys. Right. When I would sit in these meetings with the CEOs, upper management people, it was just about what's the dollar amount? What's the quantity? What's this? What's that? Because they have to, you know, argue to shareholders and, you know, talk about bottom line and stock prices and this and that. And it's like, did they forget we work at a toy company? Like, it would be fun. Like, I should go into a meeting and I should pitch something to the CEO, and he should like be amazed and laugh. Like, perfect example. I was in a meeting and we were trying to pitch a new Legends role play, like one-to-one item. And I'm not gonna say what character it was, but it was a mask, and we weren't sure if we were gonna, you know, it was a weird way of doing the mask. And I remember being out in the hallway, and they're like, "All right, well, you're gonna put this mask on, and we want you to run into the, you know, into the conference room and jump into a superhero pose. This character has a signature pose, and jump in there and pitch the mask with the mask on." And I remember coming in, and I leapt into the air, filled the conference room, did my thing, pitched it, and I remember he just sat there and like he caught like a little smirk, but I'm just like, dude, the rest of the room is like laughing, or at least I remember we work at a toy company. This guy's like, what are we selling? Bars of soap? Widgets? Well, I don't know. Yeah. What are we selling here? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's because CEOs make the round. They just move from company to company, and all the corporations use the same playbook. So to them, it's all the same. Yeah. And you know, I told the guy one time at work. I asked him. He was new, and I knew hire, but he was a veteran corporate guy. And I went in to meet him one day, and I said, you know, hey man, I said, so what are your interests outside of work? What do you do outside of work? And he's like, he was an older guy. Like, he was a lot older than me, you know, so he had a wife and kids and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, you know, I that's a hard question to answer. And I looked right at him, and I'm like, do you just go home at night to a 4-walled beige room with a chair in the middle and then sit and wait for the work day to start the next, and then just get up and like, is that, and that was my working theory for a long time, even before I met that guy, for many people in corporations. Like, they have no imagination. They're just there to literally count widgets, and they have this playbook that they all worship like it's, you know, gospel. And they're all of the same mind, and they're all very uptight, boring people. Like, they're very boring people. Like, they don't have any interest. They don't have anything that energizes them. They don't get humor. They don't get, you know, I mean, they're the people that made American Idol really popular here. Like they're the people that watched reality TV like popcorn, because they could be sold anything. I mean, they've got, as long as it's not too weird, like it's got to be very pedestrian. If it's pedestrian and it's not threatening or makes them think in any way, you can sell that stuff to those types. Oh, it's like listening to 500,000 soccer moms all in one building, just all the time. Just ugh. Anyway, so I went off on a rant there. Sorry about that. All right. Well,
I just hope that if this company gets big and super successful, my two good friends right here, if I start to become a corporate asshole, they come here and they drag me out in the parking lot and they beat the crap out of me and say, "Remember where you came from."
Oh, I will. I'll do it with humor first. So the first stage is humor, because if you lost your sense of humor, we know you're too far gone and you need your ass kicked. It's like, oh God, he's lost a sense of humor. The corporate monsters got him. It's like that game in Star Trek: The Next Generation. They've got it on his eyes and now he's addicted to it. We will. I promise we will.
Excellent.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight. Before we go, Tony, please tell everybody where they can find you and what's coming up next on your channel. You're on mute. Tony, you're muted. You're muted.
It's because I had a cat wandering around in here before me meowing and stuff. So, yeah, you can find me. Just type in Analog Toys on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Do a lot of videos about mainly vintage toys. I do videos about modern stuff, but if it's modern, it's going to be about a retro property as well. So I've got a video about an Incredible Hulk figure that Bobby Vala might have designed. I've got that coming out. It'll be on Patreon today. Yeah, other than that, you can you see me hanging around Valaverse a fair bit. I kind of work for part-time for this guy here. So.
All right, and thank you, Desert Rat. And Bobby, where can everybody find you, and just tell everybody a little bit about what you're up to right now?
Yeah, you could search Valaverse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have not posted anything on YouTube for a while, and I'm sorry about that, but I have like a list on my phone of videos that I'm going to get to. I have one that I'm getting I need to get some video clips for to do a new behind the scenes production video of what goes on in China and how toys are made. So yeah, I'm going to put that video together. Also, it's like, this is all just me. So it's like, I have to put the videos together. Maybe one of you fine gentlemen has someone that does good editing videos and can put videos together for me. I know my buddy Sal from 2 Cents Toys. I want to ask to do that job also. But yeah, it's like, I just need more time to get to this stuff. But I'm going to be utilizing the YouTube channel way more often now. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Valaverse.com. The comics are up. Issues 1 through 5 of Action Force Mission Files. The comics are also available on digital format on Kindle books on Amazon. So if you're overseas or if you like reading digitally, the books are available as well. What else? Stuff is going to be shipping from the factory very, very soon. I'm very excited about that. And then there's going to be news about Series 2 coming out. I did, let the cat out of the bag about some of it. But first and foremost, it's so important to get this stuff in everyone's hands. I can't wait. No one wants it in your hands more than I do. So I got big things planned for this company and this line. So as long as you guys keep loving it, keep making it. But other than that, that's about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, Michael Hinkson and Lio Convoy get the last 2 super chats of the evening. Michael Hinkson, thank you. He says, if you want to see how a CEO can screw up a company, look at how the CEO of JCPenney almost killed it in 2012 by changing how the company operated. Very true. And Lio, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'll also buy horrifying lion masks for Michael and Tony so the beating traumatizes Bobby as well.
Amazing.
And with that, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I hope this was informative. I see in the comments that a lot of you are saying that you got a lot of good information out of this as far as how the toy industry works. So thanks to both of my guests for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it. And with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of your either Monday, as in the case of Tony, or Sunday evening in the case of most of us here in the other side of the planet. And we'll see you on the next videos. And in Bobby's case, we'll see you in action figure manufacturing land. So everybody, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everyone.
All right.